It's the first of the month. You wake up, you check your phone, a notification, a transfer is scheduled. A massive chunk of the hours you worked last month is about to vanish. You didn't buy anything new. You didn't invest in a business. You paid for the privilege of existing in a box. For a moment, you do the math. You calculate how many years of rent checks it would take to actually buy the place. The number doesn't make sense. The math is broken, and deep down, you feel a cold realization. You aren't a customer, you're an asset, a yield-generating instrument for someone else's portfolio. They tell you rent is high because of supply and demand. They tell you it's because everyone wants to live in the city. They are lying. Your rent isn't high because there aren't enough apartments. Your rent is high because the money in your pocket is broken. And the house you live in? It stopped being a home 50 years ago. It became a bank account for the wealthy. And you? You are the fee they charge to keep the account open. To understand why you can't afford a roof over your head, you have to stop thinking about houses. You have to start thinking about the battery. In a healthy economy, money is a battery. You work, you get paid, and the battery holds the energy of your labor until you need to spend it. But what happens when the battery leaks? What happens when the currency loses 2, 5, or 10% of its charge every year? Smart money doesn't stay in a leaking battery, it moves. It looks for a better vessel to store value. Enter real estate. It's scarce. It's physical. It's the new battery. This is the mechanism of your poverty. Financialization. Houses are no longer built for people to live in. They are built for capital to hide in. When the Federal Reserve prints trillions of dollars, that money doesn't go into your paycheck. It goes into the bond market. It goes to banks. Those banks need collateral. They need assets, so they pour that cheap money into housing. This creates a bidding war, not between you and your neighbor, but between you and a hedge fund with access to 0% interest loans. Who do you think wins that war? The price of the house skyrockets. Not because the house got better, but because the dollar got weaker and the debt got cheaper. When the price of the home disconnects from the local wage, ownership becomes mathematically impossible for the working class. And when you can't buy, you are forced to rent. You become a captive market. This isn't a housing crisis. This is an asset bubble, weaponized against the people who actually need shelter. History rhymes. If this feels like feudalism, that's because the mechanics are identical. In medieval Europe, the serf worked the land. He produced the wheat. But the lord owned the soil. The serf kept just enough to survive. The surplus went to the lord. This was called rent. Fast forward to 1971. The United States ends the gold standard. The dollar becomes fiat, backed by nothing but faith. Before 1971, a house was a liability. It cost money to maintain. It didn't magically double in value every 10 years. You bought a house to live in, not to retire on. But after the money broke, the entire financial system needed a new anchor. Real estate became the global reserve asset. Look at the charts. Since the 70s, housing prices have exploded upwards, completely detaching from income. In 2008, the bubble burst. Millions of Americans lost their homes. But here is the part the history books gloss over. Who picked up the pieces? Who bought the wreckage? Institutional investors. Massive conglomerates swept into suburbia, buying thousands of single-family homes at pennies on the dollar. They turned the American dream into a subscription service. They realized something crucial. You can always print more money. You cannot print more land. Look at London. Look at Vancouver. Look at Sydney. These aren't cities anymore. They are safety deposit boxes for foreign capital. An empty apartment in New York isn't a failure of the market. It's a success for the owner. It's a gold bar made of concrete. And you? You are living in the rounding error of their balance sheet. So what happens to a society where shelter becomes a luxury good? The rot spreads. First, innovation dies. The garage startup, the artist in the loft, they don't exist anymore. When 50% of your income goes to rent, you cannot take risks. You cannot quit your job to build something new. You become compliant. You cling to the corporate ladder because missing one payment means homelessness. This is the psychological genius of the rent trap. Indebted people are docile people. Then, the family unit collapses. Young people delay marriage. They delay children. Not because they want to, but because they can't afford the square footage. The birth rate plummets. The demographics invert. The future of the nation is sacrificed to keep property values high for the boomers. It creates a transient culture. No one puts down roots because everyone is on a 12-month lease. Neighbors don't know each other. Communities dissolve into a collection of strangers sharing a zip code. And the ultimate irony? The rent you pay, it's often going into the pension funds that are supposed to support the elderly. The youth are being cannibalized to pay for the retirement of the old. It is a slow-motion demographic suicide. But the system doesn't care about demographics. It only cares about yield. As long as you keep signing the lease, the bubble stays inflated. Stop hoping for a crash. If prices crash, the banks fail. If banks fail, the government prints money to save them. If they print money, assets go up. The game is rigged to prevent the price from ever coming down to your level. So what do? You stop playing their game by their rules. First, understand that rent is the price of not owning capital. You are paying a penalty for being poor. You must acquire assets. Not necessarily a house. That might be out of reach. But you need to hold things that cannot be printed. Gold, Bitcoin, equities, business equity. You need to be on the side of the ledger that benefits from inflation, not the side that gets crushed by it. Second, geographic arbitrage. If the city is a vampire, leave the castle. The digital economy allows you to earn in a high currency zone and spend in a low rent zone. This is the only way to break the ratio. Third, community. The nuclear family in a suburban box is a recent invention and an expensive one. We are seeing a return to multi-generational living, cooperative buying, and pooling resources. It's not moving back in with your parents. It's strategic capital consolidation. The era of the solo consumer is ending. The math no longer supports it. You have to realize that the landlord isn't the enemy. The landlord is just a symptom. The enemy is the belief that you can save your way to wealth in a currency that is designed to bleed you dry. The system wants you to rent everything, your music, your movies, your car, your house. You will own nothing and be happy. That's not a conspiracy. It's a business model. Your only defense is to own something, anything. Stake your claim. Defend your purchasing power. And stop waiting for the government to lower your rent. They are the ones raising it. The feudal lords never left. They just swapped their castles for skyscrapers and their swords for ledger entries. But now you see the strings, you see the battery leaking. The question is, are you going to keep running on their treadmill, or are you going to start building your own engine? I want to know your take. Do you think home ownership is dead for this generation? Or is there another way out? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read the ones that challenge the narrative. If this video gave you clarity, hit subscribe. The system has a blueprint. I'll show you how to read it.